Ahoy! Uh, how do I sound? Hmm. Everything all fine and dandy? Everything looking ahoy tasty on the other end? How do I sound? Alright. Okay. Uh, hello everyone. Who is a? Oh wait, 1 second. Let's fix this up. My mouth is stuck. That ain't happening. There we go. Okay. Ah. Realize this is all exposed to the public. I've been exposed apparently. Okay. Hello everyone. Thanks for joining me today. Like I said, gonna keep this relatively casual, but I'm gonna be showing off kind of where I'm at with Super RPG Maker 2, and kind of giving an overview of um, where I'm wanting to take it, where I've taken it so far, and how it'll operate. And hopefully, I can do more streams like this in the future, and also get some feedback from people, kind of on what you'd want to see on the on the included with the framework. What I'm currently thinking of doing for future streams is working on sample projects, just to kind of show off how the sausage is made. And uh, so yeah, that'll kind of that's in the future. For now, I'll just be kind of going over the framework itself and changes. And again, keep in mind this is still very much a work in progress, so there's a lot that still needs to be done. Um, but I'm happy where things are right now, and I'm excited to kind of show it off. So yeah, I'll mainly show off what I've got, and then I'll spend the rest of the stream, which I don't know how long the stream will be, but I'll spend the rest of it actually uh, making stuff and working on it. So let's see. Come on, there we go. All right, so let's see. Just want to make sure everything's actually going okay. Making. All right, so when you open up the new version of the framework, um, it'll look basically pretty much the same. You'll have the main folder. You'll go in and you'll have the a few different folders: add-on systems, editor, tools, example game, and RPG core. I believe all this stuff is already included in version 1.4 or 5, whatever the most recent version, the last version I released was. So the very basic structure is the same. So my main focus with RPG Maker, or sorry, RPG. Well, you already know where my inspiration come from. Hopefully, no lawyers come after me. But my main focus with RPG Framework, Super RPG Framework 2, is to essentially include everything that was in the older versions, but and more stuff as well, but make it as modular and as segmented as possible, so that you can mix and match what systems you want to use, and also you can create new content really quickly. So I have special. Obviously, it's still the framework is still relatively specialized to single player stuff. So you can obviously implement multiplayer stuff, but you'd have to work most of that out yourself. But as for single player stuff, there's a lot of elements that I'm working to include out of the box that even Unreal Engine doesn't necessarily have immediately. So stuff like for controller support and proper full menus, as opposed to just having to create all the menus yourself from user widgets, as well as a lot of elements you'd want in an RPG, like more customization for stats and for all sorts of different stuff. So all right, so when you start up the engine, it will include an example game, but I kind of want to go ahead and show off how you'd make a way of making your own project, because the way I'm intentionally designing this is that you can effectively create as many games and projects within a single RPG Maker like Unreal project as you want. You could just create the Unreal project and create a new folder for every single game you wanted to work in, and basically build the entire code and have everything for each project work entirely just from the just all within the same project, because it all derives from the same core systems. Because core systems, for the most part, you won't need to edit the core stuff anymore in order to get it working for your project. You can just create just child blueprints and stuff like that, and it should all work fine. So for now, let's go ahead and let's see. Yeah, by the way, on the topic of mouth moving, I have the 3TNA, so mouth sync is not amazing, but hey, unfortunately, it's what I got to work with. So to start a new project, we just add a folder. I'll call it super example game. And there's a few things. I'll create a blueprints folder. So in order to make a new project, there's a few things you'll need to make right off the bat. So first of all, you'll need an RPG settings object, a project or a game specific game mode, a game instance, and what was the other thing? That may have been it, actually. Well, anyway, I'll show you as I go. So first thing we're gonna do is, in order to get your project running, the game, obviously, you'll want to create things you'd normally need in in an Unreal project. You need a game mode. So RPG Maker or RPG Framework 2 comes with a instead of the other versions where you had a game mode, a universal game mode, an RPG game mode, and a title screen game mode, this is only going to include one game mode by default, universal. And you'll essentially create a child of that and then set up all your code for your specific game in that. So what we'll do is we'll say game mode universal, and we'll say game mode example super example, right? Super example. So that's the first thing you need. Now, when you open this up, a lot of the let's wait for it to load. A lot of the data that's going to be used in your RPG, previously it was in a data asset that would be referenced from a function library, and that was kind of awkward and gave me some problems with data being removed from the data asset. So what I've instead done is added a new class to the game mode right here called the RPG settings class. And there is one by default, but this will contain a lot of the settings data that your RPG will use. So we'll say RPG settings, and we'll just right here, you see it, you'll create a new RPG settings super example. Okay, so now that we have that, we'll we'll go into our game mode, and we'll select RPG settings super example. And now let's pull that up, and we don't really need this because this is all that matters right here. So here we have all a lot of the core data that will determine how your RPG functions, how a lot of elements of your RPG function. Now, again, reminder, a work in progress, so a lot of this stuff might change in the future. There's some stuff I'm still probably going to cut, but at least this is where it starts. So so those of you who have used previous versions, you'll probably recognize a lot of this stuff, like money named, maximum amount of money. A lot of this will be familiar to you. The main things are, okay, so we'll start from the top, which this shouldn't be at the top, but whatever. So you have your game title, which we'll call Super Example RPG. Game logo, which right now is set to the original logo. Also, I think I have the other logo in here, right here. So we'll change that up. Going down the list, next we have save game prefix, and this is just when a game file is an RPG game file is saved into the Unreal Project save folder. It'll put this prefix at the start just to know, hey, this is a save file for this specific this specific game. Um, so it'll put this prefix at the start, and then if you use the other one, it essentially will just add a number at the end for whatever the save slot is. All right, new game level. This is just whenever you start a new game, it'll load this level. A lot of similar stuff like maximum party members, party name. I believe some of this stuff is new, like the leveling curve and stats. Okay, so let's go over actually some of this stuff. So there have been a few big changes I've made to how stats and how leveling work in RPG Maker. Or I really hope there's no legal issues with me saying that, because I might be making that confusion a lot. But so Super RPG Framework 2. The way stats and leveling work in this version is that instead of having to input well, actually I can pull up we'll create a game instance and I can show you what I'm talking about. So game instance, because you'll need a game instance as well. We'll go to game instance, and you'll need to create a child of game instance global. And we'll say game instance super example. All right, let's go in and add party member. I believe I have some example ones set up. All right, so okay, so the way stats work now is instead of before, where it was you have an enumeration for each stat, and you set in the very specific whatever their stat number is, like 10 strength, 20 defense, whatever. Instead, in here, I mean, that's still the case for current metric stats, but for normal stats instead, actually, we'll go to this party member thing to show you. Stats are determined by an entity, whether it be a combatant or a party member. Their stat is determined by a rate, essentially. An A, which by default is A through E. So essentially what you'll do is you'll add in a stat, which now have been switched to data assets. I can show that off a little bit more later as well. But you'll input the stat, and then you'll input their rate. And when you do that, it'll say, all right, so C, this means if his rate is C, then we set up a curve table for that stat at A through E. So it'll pick the curve table for C. So in this case, we have, say his HP is C. What that'll do is it'll go into the game settings for whatever the RPG thing is. And in this case, we need to make sure we actually set up the stats so we can use it. And in here, if you open up the actual stat, you can set up the full name, an abbreviated title, which in here we want to be HP. And then you'll see here the progression curves, and these progression curves decide what their stat level, or what their stat number is at a specific level. So we said in this case, his was C for HP. So HP at C uses this stat curve. And so say he's at level 1, it'll be at 300. He's at level, I don't know, we'll say 16. It's about 1400. Level 48 is at 4300 roughly. And so what the advantage of doing this is that you essentially can keep everything to a single curve, and you can just modify this curve, and it'll modify everything across the entire project. So if you have maybe you have a save game, or you want to just set a character to a specific stat level in the game instance, like, well, I want them to have their stat to be, or I want them to be at level, I don't know, this part's a little incomplete, but I want them to be at level 15 or whatever, and I want to I don't want to have to go in and manually change their stat value every single time I start a new game to try to tweak it. You can just go in here and it'll change it for everything. So that's how stats works. And I don't have it set up yet, but you will be able to set up different stat rates for different factions. So players and enemies wouldn't have the same stat rate, because obviously you would want to say an enemy at level 14 would not have the same amount of, like a normal enemy at level 14 wouldn't have the same amount as a player would at level 14. For leveling, things are determined from a leveling curve, and what a leveling curve does is it pretty much takes whatever a party member's current XP is, and then it decides from that what their level is and how much XP they need in order to reach the next level. So let's go and find the curve. And here's the default XP curve, which essentially will start out you'll at level 1, and it'll basically this number, this is the time value. So yeah, the time value indicates the level, and the value indicates how much XP is needed to get to, I believe it's to get to the next, either that level or the next level. And so it'll basically say if your character had 1300 XP. So let's find that here. 1300 is about right here. So if it gets 1300 XP and it says, all right, that means you're at level 35. In order to get to level 36, you'll need to get 1300 or 13,000, sorry, not 1300, 13,692 XP. So once again, it's all kept to this curve, and it pretty much just puts it in one place for you to modify for your project. All right, let's see. So why don't we go ahead and start actually putting an early version of a game together. So I'm gonna add a new map for the title screen. Obviously, whenever you want to set up a project, as for normal in Unreal Engine, you'll have to go into the project settings and change the game mode and game instance. So in this case, I have the super example game mode and game instance super example. Right. All right, let's add a new map for the title screen. Title screen super example. I don't know how well you can see the screen at the bottom there. That's my content browser. It's on a separate, let me show for this. Obviously, content browser is on a separate screen, so I'll zoom in just in case you can't see that very well. All right, so let's load up the new map. We'll also want to make whatever our title screen map is the default screen, super example. So you start up, nothing happens obviously because we haven't set any logic to our game mode. It's just a blank game mode. But since this is a title screen, why don't we go ahead and set up a proper title screen? So one of the new things I'm adding for this version of Super RPG Maker, Super RPG Framework, is menus. And menus are essentially, they're a class, they're a special user widget class that is designed to essentially run when the game is paused. Essentially, you'll have two modes of input: game mode and interface mode. And when obviously when game mode is in, you're controlling an actual pawn, an actual character, and when you're in interface mode, you're not controlling the character and you're navigating a menu. So the way this works is you'll go into functions and you'll do open menu. And from here, one of the things about the menus is only one instance of a menu class can ever be opened at a time. So what it'll do is it'll create an instance of whatever the menu you have selected is, and every time you go to open, it'll never open that menu again until after it's closed. So even if this function runs again, it'll never run it'll never add it to the viewport again or anything like that. Give me 1 second. Okay, sorry about that. You can't read it. Okay, so essentially, if you couldn't read it, I was just I'll try to zoom in a little more. I think I zoomed in all the way in the content browser, but so I guess I should start specifying. Is this kind of making sense as to what I'm doing? Is everyone following okay? Before I start moving on. I think for the moment I'm gonna create a few new folders because I will need them. Before I start moving on. I think for the moment I'm gonna create a few new folders because I will need them. Well, if you are confused about anything, Just go ahead and let me know, and I'll try to explain things better. Uh, yes, exactly. Custom menus are to prevent multiple instances, and they have there. So it's prevent multiple instances, and also it's specifically like if you don't want to just have it's to create a class that's separate, a user widget class that is separate from something you just put on the HUD normally. So if you had a pause menu or a title screen or a save load menu, that sort of stuff. So let's finish setting up this title screen. So in the menus, we'll want to create a new title screen widget. Now you can go to user widget and create a widget blueprint, but I would recommend it's faster to just go into blueprint class and search it. So the user widget classes for menus is just called menu template. So if you just search that, template, you'll get a few examples, which I'll probably have more in the final version. I'll move this on the other screen so you can see it, hopefully see it better. So here you'll see the menu. You have an example menu. This is the basic menu template, which that's an incorrect title. I'll need to change that. But basically, this is the generic menu template, which we don't want. But this is essentially what all of anything in here will be derived from this. So you won't be getting all your other user widgets like custom health meters or stuff like that. Just stuff that's derived from the menu template. So in this case, we want to create a title screen. So we'll use menu template title screen. Title screen. I would call it title menu. Makes more sense. Title menu. Hang on. Super example. All right. And we'll make sure that's added. Or we'll click auto add. And auto add is just does it automatically get added to the viewport when created. So if you want to cast it to something, in this case it'd be super example. You could turn that off if you want to cast it to something and set up variables before you start. This is the way to go about doing that. Okay, so auto add and super example title menu. Now one other thing one thing I'm including with this new version is controller support for menus, and in order to do that, like I said, I separated it into the two interface types. So in order to switch from game mode to interface mode, we'll just right click and look set input mode. You obviously have the normal Unreal versions of setting an input mode, but we have a generic set input mode as well. And what this will do is you pull it out, you'll go from game mode to interface mode, and you'll input what focus menu, and whatever the focus menu is, will be the menu you're interacting with in interface mode. And to quickly show you just how that works, I'm going to go into pull up the main controller. So the default controller for the whole engine is this controller default, and essentially how it works is it just it has all these inputs for menu navigation, and it'll just check to see, okay, are we in interface mode, and do we have a focus widget set? And if true, then interact with that focus widget. And oh boy. And if not, then don't do anything. So this keeps it one from firing multiple events on widgets that you might have hidden, because I know that's been an issue, at least for me in the past, is when I'd remove a widget from the viewport, but I would still end up inputting functions into it, or running functions on it and stuff like that. So this prevents that from happening. So all right, now we have menu set up to run, but obviously there's no menu actually set up, so nothing happens when we run it. So let's open up that title screen menu. Now first we'll want to drop a canvas panel into it, because it doesn't have one by default like the normal things do. So now we have a canvas panel. Now for creating menus, I've been working really hard to set up as many different custom widget templates and elements that you could pretty much any that you could possibly need to work on an RPG, just to make the process of not only setting up new menus but controlling them super easy. Because as people who've played a lot of RPGs, especially JRPGs, would know, menus are a big part of that. They often making sure your menus not only you spend a lot of time in them, so making sure they function properly is important. So first we want to add in the game logo, because it's a title screen. So we'll just search logo, and you'll have element game logo right here. which by default will show this logo, but it will. No, that's not correct. Let's put it at 0.5. It will switch to your proper logo when you actually run the game. So we set it up to be the Framework 2 logo. So there it is right there. So one of the first and probably most important custom user widgets that I added, you'll be using a lot of, is the or one of the custom types is the selectors. And selectors, essentially, they just allow you to select. There's a dog barking outside my window. Sorry if you can hear that. But so selectors essentially, that's going to be a problem. Selectors just let you select different types of assets or entities and widgets. So, and I think they were in previous versions of the focused midget. Yeah. Oh, well, great. If you don't hear the dog, that's good. Anyway, sorry, I'm just catching up on the chat. Yeah. So, I believe I included selectors. I don't know if I named them properly in previous versions, but you'd have selectors for things like items or party members, and you would essentially just add a selector to the screen, and then you could choose, and it would create when it was opened, it would create a list of all of selectors of that type, whether it be items, party members, abilities, whatever. So those are back, but one of the key types of the selectors that you'll probably be using the most is the option selector, which I believe is just called option list actually right now. But all right, panel option list. So this is going to be a really, really important thing to use in menus because it essentially saves you a ton of time in setting up menu buttons and menu options. Set this up properly. So essentially what you'll do is you'll just drop it in, and once it's in there, you can start adding buttons to it. Instead of having to drag them in individually. And what you can do is you can create a template right here for basically a button widget, and it'll add that button widget in again. So you can get you can essentially create uniformity across the entire panel and save a lot of time just from creating one widget and calling it from here. So for the title screen, let's see, what are some options we need? New game, obviously. Load game, system, and quit game. So obviously it'll show in the text there, and you can set that up. Actually, I'm wondering if I should go ahead and show how to make the... Well, I'll show how to set up this other stuff first, and then I'll show the options button and how to create a custom option widget. All right, so we set up the actual display text for the buttons, but we also want to set up a tag because the tag will determine when a button is, when anything happens to a button, what it'll do. So let's say we'll tag this one as new load system and quit game. Or we're not quit game, we want something simple, so we'll just call it quit. Okay, and we'll call this start options. So now let's go out into here. I probably don't need any of that. Start options on chosen and switch. So what we want to do is we'll just want to set up what happens when well, this is for option selected, so we just want to set up, just use the tags here to determine when which tag is selected, what happens. So we have load, system, and quit. Right, so it should be started out. Yeah, there we go. And we already have, because I used a pre-existing widget template or option template, it already has stuff set up for sound and for a hover animation. So I think for now I'll show a little bit how you'd set up a new widget option template. So if you go into the creating a new blueprint, we'll say widget option, or maybe just option. I'm still in the process of renaming a lot of stuff as I work on it. Because the way I generally work on this is I actually create games and try to make games as I'm making the template. So when I run across a case of, oh, hey, I'd like to do this in this game, then I'll go into the actual template and add that feature in, so it can be used by the player. Sorry, I thought the stream had been stopped for a second. So it's a case of I'm adding stuff as I find I need it, and that makes sure I'm making sure I cover stuff and add stuff that will actually be used. And so a lot of this is kind of started getting disorganized. But all right, for the moment, let's see. Option template. So option template, this will be, the name will probably be changed, but for now, this is what you'll want to create for a new option template. We'll call this generic option super example. All right. So you could pretty much do whatever you want with this. The main things to keep in mind are that. All right. The main is that it has function for when it's hovered over and when it is selected, and you can set that up a few different ways on how to select something. There is a interface which I'll probably show in a little bit. I'll show in a minute for setting up controller input essentially, but by default there you don't have to, because I basically am trying to leave things open for you to customize however you want, while also giving options to do stuff very very quickly. So right now, if you go into the override for option template, you'll see a few different things you can get. In this case, we'll look at get option button and get option text. And what this essentially does is this gets the widget for the actual button widget you click on and the text widget. So first we need to actually add those. So we'll say button. Oop, that's a big. Let's add a canvas panel first, because I don't want it to be that big. Button. This will look the exact same. So why don't we add a special kind of button? By special, I mean the default Unreal button. So maybe make the background some weird red color. All right, and for text, make sure to make that a variable. We'll set the text to font RPG and obnoxiously big. We'll give it a big outline. 10. That is ugly, but I'm okay with that. All right, so now we just have a very generic button setup. And what we'll go into here is we need to set both the text and the button as variables. And what we'll do is we'll just plug those into here to set up, and bang. Now, the one other thing is you can have the normal, you hover over a button and you have the images it switches to, but that often can be kind of boring, and what can be more exciting is to have animations play when you hover over and off a button, and having it kind of bounce around a little bit. So why don't we do that? We'll create a new animation. Doesn't really matter what we call it, so I'll just say hover, and I will click on it and just create some random animation. Transform, scale. Sorry, catching up my comments a second. Yeah, essentially, Samuel, where it's the idea is to create to basically create the general idea, and I find this is the practice for coding, good coding essentially, is that you want to be able to get as much done as you possibly can with as little code as possible, and that's when reusing elements comes in. So yeah, the idea is to create. All right, I can have one widget that creates, because there'll be a lot of situations in an RPG where all you'll need is just to create a list or a scroll list or a box of buttons, and all these buttons will function pretty much the same way. They look the same. They have the same hover animation, and the only difference is literally the text that's on them and what they do. And instead of doing the normal way where it's like, all right, I'll add in a vertical box, and then I'll add in a button, and I'll customize that button which you can set up. To be fair, you can set up a custom button widgets. But the point is, then I'll set this up, and then I'll add in text. And now we're going to copy and paste this, I don't know, for however many buttons I need. And then you have this giant stack of buttons and text and stuff just hanging out. And then you have all these buttons here. It's like, oh, I need to set up a click for each one of them, and I need to set up a hover for each one of them, blah, 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 blah. And obviously you can create a user widget and just drop the user widget and then do something similar. But the point is, it starts stacking up, not just on performance, but in terms of the menu, and it just becomes so much to keep track of. And if you want to change one thing, it can get kind of ridiculous. So yeah, that's generally the idea. Is all right. Get as much done with as little coding as possible, which does mean I spend a lot more time programming really boring stuff, but in the long run, it saves so much time. So yeah, back to this. When I finish up this animation, we'll say that when I hover over it, let's have it rotate really awkwardly. Why not? So that's the hover animation. So the way, let's go plug this in first. So now let's go to override, get highlight animation, hover, and we'll plug that in. So now we have I believe it should be set up properly. Let's go in and change the type, the option class widget, to the one we just created, generic option super example. Oh man, that's ugly, but the point is, there it is, there we have it. Let's launch the game. There we go. And you obviously can customize this thing however you want with any extra function you want. But yeah, it's set up to work right out of the box. And I have a lot of... So that's essentially just the general idea of how I'm trying to manage menus and widgets and stuff like that. So why don't we go ahead and... We're making a game. Let's properly make it so when we hit new game, it actually starts a new game. First, though, I want to make it so I can actually quit out of the game. So, but... Alright, get universal. Reminds me of early 3D. Thank you. Menus are sexy. Oh yeah, like the Super Mario, the early 3D menus and stuff. I always have this. I have let's see if I can pull it up. Obviously, Final Fantasy menus are kind of a classic thing, but I always kind of really liked the old Final Fantasy menus. That's like the blue menu with a metal border. But I always kind of really liked how the Final Fantasy VIII menu looked, where it's just sort of, and it may just because it's really easy to make, but where it's just like a gray box with a gradient and it's embossed around the or embossed, whatever the Photoshop effect is called. Embossed around the edge, and that sort of simplicity. But yeah, and I also, obviously, I think since Persona 5 has come out, a lot of people in general are like, oh, you can actually make, a user interface that's really interesting and stylish and looks cool. So, which I don't think I have it set up to show you, but I talked a little bit about sample projects and including sample projects, and one of the ones I'm working on is inspired by Persona 5. So that'll be to kind of show you the wide flexibility of what you can do without changing any of the core code. So all right, finishing this. So get universal game mode, and we'll say it doesn't really this case we don't have to cast to our own game mode because we just want to start a new game. From new game, here we go, start new game. And first we need to set up a level, though, because if we hit start new game, we're just going to get a problem because there's no level created, obviously. Because the way setting up a new game works is, let me pull up the game mode and show you. All right. Oops. Super example. Game mode. So everything's clear here. I believe I think I made start new game a function now. Yeah, so start new game. Hang on. Let me go back to check to make sure. I want to make sure I do this correctly. So yeah, so what it'll do is it'll fire when you run start a new game, it'll fire initialize new game. So the way you'll want it, let's see if we can find that. Initialize new game. What this essentially does is it's a place where you can set up what happens when a new game is started, not just what level is run, but also you want to set up what your first party members are, what your first items are, and it gives you an option to decide, okay, am I running New Game Plus? And if I am, you can decide what save you're using to get the New Game Plus data from, so you can add that on to everything else you start with if you want. So anyway, in this case, we're just going to start with a whatever game. So let's finish up. We'll want to create a first level map. So new level, default level, doesn't really matter. I don't have any music going. I think I want some music going. I'm going to use Falcon Music because they have an awesome music policy, so shouldn't get copyrighted at all, which is nice. Keep it quiet, though. Huh. Let me know if the music is too loud. So yeah, New Game Plus. Well, I believe I included it before, but it was just a single variable. It was just a boolean that said, "All right, I want a New Game Plus," and that was it. So I'm trying to include it so now you can include a save. And essentially, the way that'll work is it'll work pretty much the same way using New Game Plus as it would in for normal New Game. It's just that when you do start New Game, hang on, you can input, like I said, you can input a save file. So yeah, 1 second. Go back to working on that Embrose. Yeah, Embrose is the word I was looking for for the menus, yeah. They probably wouldn't look great on like a modern console, but I kind of like the simplicity on the PS1. Anyway, new map. Super example test map. So let's just copy that name. You may notice I kind of have a bad habit of whenever I'm writing stuff out, I've accidentally capitalized the first two letters. So, all right. So in your, where is it? Just the game mode, super example. Here we go. In whatever your RPG settings are, we'll set whatever the new game level is. So now, let's go back to the title screen. New game. Here we are, but nothing's happening. Obviously. So like I said, I'm trying to make this as flexible for different types of stuff as possible, and that means, but the thing before where it would automatically use a system of you have your whole party and your whole camp menu set up. It doesn't automatically do all that. You have to set a lot of that up yourself. But I've tried to make it easier to create the style of gameplay that you want. This gives the option to add equipment. Yeah, Sam, exactly. With the New Game Plus, basically just whatever you want to import from the old game, you can. So let me see. I lost what I was doing though. All right. So, let's create a new, this is the other reason I went with a single universal game mode for everything. So instead of having one for the RPG game mode and the universal, so you can create a child of the universal as your specific project's universal game mode, and then create more children of your project's universal game mode, if that makes sense. So, all right, so let's do that. Super example game mode, gameplay. Now, obviously, we want to be controlling characters and stuff. So, for that, I have a function called spawn unit from index. So I have renamed party members in this version into units because and it just seemed like a term more generic. And essentially, just in your game instance, which I believe I still have up, which I've also misspelled game instance, but whatever, why not? So yeah, you just have a list of party members, which I'm also going to rename to units. And when you spawn a unit from an index, you'll just input a place to spawn them and a member index, and it'll just spawn whatever that member index from your party is. So yeah, by default I have it set as 1. We'll just to save time for right now, we'll spawn to the middle of the map. But yeah, all you gotta do is plug that in, and now we should have it working. I want to make sure I have. He actually has an actor though. Party member blue. Yeah, playable actor right there. So now, new game. All right, because we have to actually make it so. That's the game mode we use. Super example. Probably have to move the map down just because for now we're using the. I'm gonna move my screens around a little bit too. All right, let's try the startup example. Nope. All right, because I don't have a game mode set. Nope. Well, this is great. You can watch me figure out what the heck I did wrong to start with. Okay, so now get out of here, Game Maker. Let's see. Party member blue, correct. And he has PC blue, playable actor. Yeah, should drop him. What gives? Well, we'll try this. Get unit list. Function for just getting, yeah, all the units for reference. Length. What? Well, that ain't very cash money. Alright, well, to be safe, why don't we go ahead and restart the engine? That may do it. When in doubt, restart the engine before it crashes. Maybe it's start it from the menu, the title screen. Maybe, but it should, because remember, it's kind of a pain to actually have to anytime you want to test something to start it from the main menu. So it should. Okay, because I think I have it set up in the other example project. To spawn a character by default, yeah? No, man. What the heck? That's crazy. That's mad. Alright, well. It's okay. I figured something like this would happen. Work in progress, but kind of embarrassing. What do you have to say for yourself? There he is. And I can't move. Why can't I move? I can move the camera, I just can't move him. Well, let's fix it up. Yeah, that's fair. So one of the problems again, another issue with the previous version is that in order, and you still kind of have to do this, but that in order to test out anything, you'd either have to test out your game properly, you'd have to go through the title menu, load a new game, or you'd have to set up the specific stuff you wanted in the game instance, which is another reason why I for setting party member stats, I wanted to make it as simple as possible. And so instead of needing to fine tune all the numbers, you could just say, his stat uses this curve, and I don't know, figure it out yourself, game. So anyway, what do we need to do? Sorry, my brain is farting. Well, let's go make sure the unit character. So RPG core blueprints, actors, default unit. Yeah, I worked hard, so keep lazy. Although, and I actually find this is a when it comes to developing game assets and stuff, a good practice to have. I am working hard so that I can be lazy too in the future, because I essentially said, all right, what's stuff that'll save me a lot of time in developing games, because it'll probably save other people a lot of time too, and that means I can probably make money off it. So it's kind of my what gives me is like what's helpful to me, because it'll probably be helpful to some other people too. All right, so input. Yeah, you got movement input. What gives? I didn't override any of it, did I? Get a move. Maybe. What the heck? Oh, I know why. Okay, so this is also important to set up. I think I think I'm doing this correctly. So in order to control a unit, party member, we're gonna make sure I got this right one. Gameplay. You have to actually change the player control to controller unit, because otherwise you might get some frickery-do going on. But that still is not working. All right. Let's see. Check inputs. Make sure inputs are firing like they're supposed to. Maybe could it be because I forgot to set the input mode back to game? I don't think that would be it, but I'll try. All right. Should be under so much stuff. Another problem when you're working on something this big, you kind of have to get used to having a ridiculous amount of tabs open. So, looking for game mode. Not universal game mode, though. Game mode specifically for this. Alright. Input mode to game. In which case we don't need a focus widget. Alright. Switch out from that just so I can do this. Oh, you gotta be kidding me. Are these functions even firing? Yeah, that's what I was just testing to see if I switch back to game, which I believe it's supposed to automatically switch back to game mode, because essentially what setting input mode does is it just I can kind of show you. What it does is it'll decide which one it is, then it'll set your input mode normally to game or to game and UI, because you need game and UI in order to when you're in an interface to still do input commands from like a controller or something, and then it'll turn on or off the cursor, and it'll disable the inputting on the player character until it's set, and then it'll set a widget in focus if there is any. So yeah, so that's set now. So first I want to make sure if anything even happens if I press them buttons. Yeah, that's running. Well, what do you do about that? Am I stuck? Let's drop him. Drop him from really... Oh, no. Default... It's not the default pawn, is it? Spectre pawn... Controller default... Yeah, auto possess. Well, I know it's possessed because I can move this thing around. But it's the frickin' WASD keys. They ain't having it. They do not like me today. Move forward. Wait a minute. Okay. I got a controller plugged in. I don't know if that's screwing with it. I'm gonna plug it and see what happens. Gonna become difficult to show this thing off without a... Oh! I think I just... There we go. I broke it. Alright, well, I will work on that probably more after and figure out what the problem is. But I can kind of show more about setting up a custom pause menu. Because, again, it was one of those things that before there was just one pause or one camp menu that was set up that you could customize yourself, but it was pretty restrictive because refresh your movement input nodes. I will try that. Yeah, for you. Okay. But like I was saying, you had one camp menu that was created automatically, and you had to modify that widget. And it could be messy and not very clean, not very nice. Move forward. Show up. Move right. I think I'm gonna switch away just so I can keep it at a... He ain't moving. What if I do up? Just to see what happens. Yeah, you stuck. Whatever. I'll work on that off of. Man, but I've never had this problem before is the one thing. If it is a bug with the capture thing, I've never had this before whenever I was recording the others stuff. So I'm not sure. But anyway, let's just show up how to make other menus because that's mostly what I've been working on recently, and I might be able to show off some of the... I probably won't be able to show off any of the battle system that I've been working on because it's super early and it's changed a lot since I moved it into version 2. But we'll see. All right, so... What was I going to do? Right. Pause menu or camp menu. So, let's go into the proper... Back into the... game mode. So, in your game mode, you'll have an option for a few different menu or HUD options, or class options. What these are, it's essentially just what menu to or menu or HUD to run in these scenarios. So, in this case, we have a main HUD. The main HUD is the one that'll appear on your screen, just normally as you're playing the game. The pause menu, which is the camp menu, and the pause menu background, and the pause menu background will be, I haven't explained the subsystems, have I? That's kind of a big important thing. All right, I'll get into that in a second. Actually, let's do that right now. So, an important part of something that was in the old version in Super RPG framework up to version 5 or whatever, but I'm really focusing more on in this version is something called, and they were called system managers, and here and I'm calling them subsystems. So essentially what these are is it's just basically systems of code and function that are split up into pieces that you can decide when you want to use them. They're essentially just actors containing code. You can kind of think of them as mini game modes, I guess would be a way, or state machines, sort of. But okay, I'll go in and show you an example. All right, so subsystem manager. Essentially, it's just a blank. It's essentially it's to segment codes of your game off and have it that you don't always want running all the time, and to change like the state of gameplay. So this is all a subsystem is. It's just a blank actor that has a tag and has a shutdown function. But the way it works is that in your game mode, you can basically start up and shut down different subsystems that you want running at any time. So I'll show you an example. One of the subsystems that is built in, I forget what subsystems that are built in, is the there's a few. One of them is a game timer, and this is what it says. It's a way of keeping track of your game's playtime. So in order to run a subsystem, actually, it'll be easier to show in the level blueprint. So in order to run a subsystem, you just get the universal game mode and look out subsystem and generate subsystem right here. So we'll say when we hit 7, then we'll generate the game timer subsystem. And subsystems, as soon as they are they start running, basically running as soon as they're created, because it's essentially just spawning a single instance of it. Similar to how menus work, where it spawns one and it always checks to see, is there one of this already existing? If so, then don't spawn another one. And we'll hit 8 in order to shut down that same subsystem. So it'd be game timer, and we'll say subsystem. Now there's a few different ways to reference a subsystem. You can get it by its tag, which you can get by finding the class, or I believe you can just say get RPG subsystem, which is a function that lets you just select the class, and it'll see, all right, does that subsystem actually exist? In fact, I'll go ahead and save a little bit of time. Check to see if it's actually found. So yeah, we'll check to see if it's a valid subsystem, and if so, actually we don't need to do that. What we need to do is let's get game instance, because what the system, I'll show you actually, this is a good case of showing kind of how the subsystems work. So when the subsystem is loaded up, right when it's loaded up doesn't do anything, but as long as it's running, every single second it'll add 1 second up excuse me, 1 second to the amount of time you've played, which is in the save game. So I have it set up to where it ticks every 1 second, and then every tick it adds just 1 second up. So show this off. Do once delay. Do every second. Print string. All right, now it should print every second, and boom, up there at the top. See, it's stuck at 0 because we haven't started the subsystem yet. So if I hit 7, which is what I set it to, it should start running. Or was it 8? Hang on. Oh, I'm done. Let's do this better. Let's do this a different way. First, I think these may already been used, so instead we'll use I'll just use 0. Yeah, if it's game timer, right? Yeah. Alright, let's try that out. Alright, and bang. Where's my subsystem, you piece of crap? Let's make sure it's actually in the world outliner. Oh. Huh. Okay, I'm wondering if there must be an... That's weird. Can't input anything, it seems. Can I even input 5? Hey, let's just try something. 'Cause it's starting to look like maybe I can't input anything, and that's the problem. Yeah, I can't even... Alright, let's good old engine restart, see if that fixes it. Let's change the map so I don't have to get back to it. Oops, engine restart. Ah. How are you enjoying the failed presentation so far? Alright. Ah, yeah. I have a lot of art from Final Fantasy XIV cycling in the background because I love the art in that game. A lot of stuff from Final Fantasy XIV and from the artist Hidari. My brain. So yeah, what it's looking like is something's not letting me fire inputs properly. I don't know what it is. Could it be in my game mode? What do I don't do anything? Yeah, it's weird. My keyboard works fine on this, but not on the game. Wait a minute. I know some of my contestants see if my inputs working. This actually goes back to what I was trying to show off earlier. Maybe you'll be open up an older version and try your example project before setting up anything new. Yeah, I might try. I haven't made any changes for a little bit, so I may try that if I can't get anything sorted out by the end of this. I may use a previous version, but yeah. But anyway, for now, I'll show you how to create the pause menu. So I was showing off subsystems a little bit, and another one of the built-in ones is where is it? Camp menu. Now camp menu is already, as a subsystem, is already set up, and the way it works is when you when it's created, when the system starts running, starts up, it just opens the camp menu and pauses the game, and when it shut down, it closes down the menu and lets you resume play. So in order for it to work, all you really need is a camp menu class. So let's go to the gameplay, which is right here, the pause menu class. So let's go back into our thing here. Menu template camp. We'll just call it pause menu instead of camp menu. Example. No, super example. What am I thinking? Go, go, go. All right. And we'll go ahead and use the built-in background just because it's faster. So now we'll use our pause menu super example. And it should... Ha! There we go. So, I am able to... What the heck? Fascinatingly, I'm able to pause. Oh, I haven't set up anything to close it down yet. So input here works. Input to so to some extent, keyboard input is working. So it has to be something in the coding setup. All right. Well, let's work backwards. Find where. So inputs here are working. Huh. I should say up. Well, there you go. It's clearly working somehow. Why it's not giving me full control? Why it's not letting me do anything to the... Doing anything in the level blueprint? That's what's confusing me. Okay. No, not right. This is bizarre. Yeah, so I can't do inputs in the level or in the pawn, but in the controller, it's fine. Oh, okay. Well, let me finish showing about the camp menu works. Anyway, because that'll let me show off a little bit how controller input is handled as well. So, the way it's set up is just when you, and I'll don't know if this will be final. I might change this in the final version, but for now, when you're using a unit controller and you hit tab, it'll start up the camp menu, subsystem, which, like I showed before, opens up the pause menu, or pauses all your character's actions, and then opens up whatever the pause menu that's selected is. So here we go. For now, let's say we'll want an option list, like I showed off earlier. But we gotta add a canvas panel first, right? All right. Oops. Option list. Oh yeah. So while I'm working on this, those of you who are here, what do you think of the idea of I have been really tossing around the idea of doing more developer streams. I'd really like to, because I work for hours a day often on this stuff, since it's one of my main sources of income. So let me see, 700. And so I'm thinking, why not just stream a lot of what I work on? Because it's not like spoilery stuff. I'm essentially just making Super RPG framework. And then I thought, well, what would be really cool is if I've talked about making those sample games. What if I streamed me making the different sample games, and I could get feedback and suggestions on how to do stuff. So it would be, it'd be stuff like making samples games inspired by like Persona or Final Fantasy or Dragon Quest and stuff like that, and show like, hey, here's how you would make this sort of thing in the framework, and while at the same time, I'm actually working on improving the framework and getting suggestions on all of you as to what to do. So how does that? I guess it's. I think it sounds like a good idea, but I'm like, how would you guys be interested in watching something like that? You think? And while I'm waiting for that, we'll add in some options for the pause menu. What do usually you have in a pause menu? You have equipment, status. What do usually you have in a pause menu? You have equipment, status. Thinking. My brain is on pause. We'll just say system and resume, whatever. Yeah. All right. Well, we'll sign this stuff. Oops. Hello, Ben. Since you just showed up, you probably missed. I asked if one of the things I'm doing for Super RPG Framework is I'm wanting to include all right, see you, Samuel. Take care. But yeah, Ben, I'm wanting to make sample games to include with a project. Maybe not necessarily with the actual download, but includes that you could download separately and just put into a project. That'll essentially just be inspired by different RPGs, JRPGs, to show the flexibility of the engine. And I was just wondering, like, is that something that you'd be interested in, like you guys would be interested in watching along with and giving feedback on? Is me streaming, making those sample games as I also work on the project. So, where was I showing you? All right, so like I was, all right. This is the camp menu class that we've set up, and I've got this set up for it. One obvious thing is you want to be able to close out the menu. So let's add in the options, which I have 5. And I think resume was the bottom one. All right, so so in this case, this is how subsystems work. All we need to do in order to, like I said, so the subsystem is able, all the code is right here to resume playing, to close down the menu and resume playing normally as soon as it's shut down, which means all we have to do here is shut it down. So let's say, can I shut down from here? Okay. I should probably add a function to do this without calling the game mode, but anyway, universal game mode, shut down, shut down subsystem, camp menu. So I'm gonna drop him lower so he's not. Well, I can't drop him lower because he's set to spawn at wherever. All right, that ain't right. There we go. So there, and we'll resume. We're back to playing, which I still can't move, but there you go. So there. Now we have our basic input for the pause menu in. And let's add an option for quitting to the title screen. Why not? Quit game. Just for now. And for that, I will say if you can. Oh, so let's just go ahead and call RPG settings, which you can call the settings that have been constructed just from here. And I have something for get game title. That's not it. Title screen level. Here we go. And when that happens, we will open the title screen level. All right, start out. And quit game. That was quick game, though. I don't have the title screen set up. That's right. Let's go ahead and do that, then. Let's copy the... no. Copy the name of the title screen. Open up the RPG settings. And right there, title screen. Don't ask what Leo of the Odyssey is. I can't tell you. There we go. Quick game. There we go. Back to the title screen. And we can quit. Or we can start a new game. And we have a generic camp menu set up. Now I think just to... That's probably all the main stuff I want to show off for now, just because I've been going for over an hour. I'll stick around and just work on stuff, and I think tomorrow I'll probably do another stream showing off some of the changes to like other elements like saving games. I've made saving data and loading data a lot easier. But yeah, if you want to stick around and watch until I'm done. I don't know how much longer I'll be on, but I work most of the day, so maybe half an hour more. I don't know. We'll see. But yeah, so just gotta watch the process, I guess. All right, so why don't we go ahead and... Where are we at? Yeah, actually, Ben, I've had a few people suggest Pokemon, and that's certainly one I would like to do, because that gives me a few ideas for how I would need to... One nice thing about getting some of the more wild suggestions, obviously I'm trying to make this framework relatively specialized, but one thing that's nice about getting some suggestions that aren't strictly adhering to the the old Final Fantasy Dragon Quest party JRPG system is it makes me need to think like, all right, how can I set it up so you can create all these different systems with without needing to do massive code changes, basically. So yes, Pokemon is one of the ones I've gotten a lot of several requests for, and I will probably work on implementing that. I think the ones right now that I am pretty much like for sure wanting to work on are Pokemon, Final Fantasy, probably Final Fantasy 9 and 10, something along that style, and then Persona, especially Persona 5. So something similar to those styles. I would also like to include a few examples of like how you might go about doing something like an action RPG. Not necessarily something super complicated, but if any of you have played like the Yeast games or Tokyo Xanadu, a little more simple like that. Any skill tree system. Yes, so right now, skills or abilities are one of the things that I've worked the least on changing, but it's something I would certainly like to do. It's just a little bit, it's for a similar reason to the way dialogue is tricky to write in the vanilla version of Unreal without any like plugins and stuff, because it's essentially it works off like a logic chart and branches and stuff, and that's hard to set up in Unreal Engine, in the vanilla version of Unreal Engine. So absolutely, I'd like to include some sort of skill tree or ability tree system. For certain, I won't like make it in a way where that's impossible, but I just haven't gotten around to doing a lot of changes to abilities just yet. And I forgot what I was doing. All right, I'm working on this. All right, so, well, I just closed out something I shouldn't have. Hang on. Palette, there we go. So, let's add some party members on. No, actually, let's do some other stuff. Let's add some elements you'd want. Let's say game time right here. This will need to be changed up because I want to be able to let you customize the style, but now you can just throw this into here, and it should show you the game time. Oh yeah, one other thing about subsystems is, although they can be generated and shut down whenever you want, you can also set up automatic subsystems, and these will just run as soon as the game, whatever the level using this game mode has started. So in this case, let's just make it so it automatically starts the game timer. All right, now that we have a game timer added into the pause menu, yeah, look down. There you go. Working Nice and dandy. Resume game. So, maybe money too. We'll add money over here. Will it be possible to have the battle encounters happen on the field instead of transitioning to another map off combat? Yes, absolutely. So I'll go ahead and show you a little bit of how the new battle system works. It's nowhere near complete, so keep that in mind. But all right, let me see if I can. I'm gonna go into OBS and try to see if I can up the size of. One second, display. Boy. All right, so I'm falling off the screen there. All right. So here in this, this is just my content browser. Here's kind of how the battle system Untitled Systems is set up. Basically, it's broken down into a few elements. One of the main ones, going to blueprints, the main one is this turn-based, which right now is turn-based combat too. But this is a subsystem, like I was showing off, which right now is kind of a mess because it was using a bunch of code from the original version, so I have to update it to work with this. But it's a subsystem like the others, so it starts up, runs this, and then when the battle's over, it shuts down. And the way it works, let me pull this up, is that it contains a few different things that are spawned when an encounter starts. One of these are if you can see the bottom there. I'll just go into the construction script I'll show you. So first of all, it'll get a stage. And a stage is just the environment in which the battle takes place. So instead of that being a map that you have to stream in, you'll build a stage in a blueprint. Miscellaneous. No. Let's go out. Battle stage right here. So this is an example of, this is a very generic battle stage, and it'll just spawn this in, so it'll be removed whenever the battle is over. And in this way, you can set up individual coding for every map. So if you want to have special things happen, you have access to the. Basically, I guess the general idea over a lot of this new version is I wanted to not make things super rigid. I wanted to give you access to the blueprint graph as much as possible. So if there were ever even just one scenario in your game where you're like, well, I don't want it to work like that. In this one scenario, I want it to work a slightly different way. Then you can do that because you have access, because most things let you have access to the blueprint graph. So here's an example of the stage. You'll have a battle intro, which you can set up a default battle intro, I believe here or not. And you can have a specific stage, can have a unique battle intro, which is just a sequence that plays during it. Stream level, you can stream in levels if you want. But the point is, when in order to have it in to answer your question, Roberto, yes, you can. And the way it would work in order to have it run on the map is, I will try to include an example of how it would happen exactly. But essentially, just this, you would spawn this turn-based battle thing right here on the map. Hang on. Which by default, it spawns it up at the top here. I'll change that. But essentially, you would just spawn this at the location, and you wouldn't spawn in a stage. Like this, you wouldn't use a stage at all. It would just, so that way the environment would be would just be the surrounding area. And in addition to stages, it also will spawn in other things the same way. Encounters. So encounters are obviously enemy encounters. Instead of creating those from a data asset, Those are also a blueprint here, where you will let me show you. What you'll do is you'll up here at the top, you'll add in an enemy, and it'll spawn in them, and then you can change their transformation here, which might take a little bit. Hopefully it doesn't crash on me. It doesn't usually, but you never know. Yeah, so 100, 200 by 200, adding a new one. And so you'll set up another attacker. That stuff here. What encounter do I want? And you'll say, like, all right, I want boom, and then you have the encounter you just set up. Encounter trash too. It doesn't matter. Anyway, so that's just a general example of how that's changed. There's a lot more that's changed, but I will get into that later because this is a bit far off now. I've got to get everything else in the framework set up first. But yeah, this will be included with when version 2 releases. Let's get back to this. Can't menu. I'm curious. It's in the thumbnail. What do you guys think of the new logo I have for it? I wanted something that was a little bit less. The original logo was clearly meant to be inspired by by Final Fantasy, but I wanted something that was a little less boring for the new logo. So, all right, where am I? Panel. Oh yeah. Scroll. Let me think. I think I'm on what I want. What do I want out of life? I think I could set up a party HUD. Why not? Oh, let's get rid of this too. We don't need that. Oops. Where are we at as a society? Where are we at? Okay. Well, no controller unit is working or whatever, but trying to think of what I was trying to do a minute ago. Make a scroll box. Why not? Actually, party. Do I have? Oh yeah, a unit selector. I'm dumb. So in general, do I need to just put spawn locations in places the enemy will appear? So all right. So in general, do I just need to put the spawn locations in places where enemies will appear? For example, when we make contact with the enemy, then it will play the intro sequence, spawning everyone. Yeah, I need to set it up so it's possible, but I think generally the way you'd want to do it is you'd basically set it up so it detects wherever each of the enemies in the encounter are on the map normally, and then it'll read those and say, all right, and then for this, and then create. Oh man, I need to set up a way you can create a custom encounter in game then. But yeah, it essentially just says, all right, so now spawn an enemy this type at each one of those locations, and then yeah, you can No. I think I understand what you're asking. Is like, how does it? Basically, you're wanting to know how it determines where to spawn the enemies on the battle map from the enemies that just wander the field, because those are two different classes. I think that's what you're asking. But yeah, so you just create a, and that's good because that makes me go, all right, someone wants to do this, so I need to be able to include a way for them to do that. I'm gonna show off a party selector. Why not? Actually, it's better off we'll add a few more party members in, and then we can show it off better. Also, I don't know if the person who asked this earlier is in here, but I know someone asked me about the possibility of adding other portraits other than the big and small to the party members. And short answer is yes. Man, bit all over the place. Will be much cleaner for the final release. Don't worry. Game instance. Party member green. Well, I didn't. Yeah, all of them. But essentially, just if you go into the party member now, you'll add portraits here. Another thing, I'm changing over to using material instances for a lot of icons and portraits and stuff rather than 2D textures, just because it allows a lot more artistic creativity, I find. But yeah, essentially what you do here is I don't have any party portrait set up yet, but you just specify the type, the portrait tag. So maybe you'd want a small portrait and a big portrait, and then when you wanted to reference it, all you'd have to do is say unit portrait, and then you just specify what the unit index is and what their portrait is, and then it'll get that one for you. So who was it that asked that? I don't remember who wears, but someone asked that. So if you're watching this, yes, you can do that. I got a better idea. We'll change equipment from units, just to show off unit selection. What am I doing on time? Okay. All right, I got time. Units. Let's open a new menu. So switching over to, say, a new sub menu. It's this easy. Well, let's add a new menu first. But wait, let's do this the way I suggested. Follow my own advice. Menu template. Party menu, or we'll call it party menu. Super example. Wow, that was loud. Sorry if anyone heard that. Party menu, super example, auto add, and we'll close out this other menu, the camp menu. So yeah, this will close out the camp menu, but it'll keep the subsystem running. So you still, so the background will still be there, and you still won't be able to control your character. So until you go back to here and then shut down. So self. And let's also make sure that when we're inputting, or set input mode. Oops. When we're inputting into this new menu. So, party menu, super example, canvas panel, option. We want an option list. We want a selector, a unit selector. I don't have any unit selectors set up. Well, let's change that. Make it a scroll box. That's my favorite type. So, all right. So on creation, get unit list, And get out of here, you guys. I don't need you. For each loop. Then we'll grab the unit selector and add a unit to it. Easy as pie. We will have to give it a template though, so it knows how to make that look. Widget template unit. Okay. Or widget unit general. Oops. Alrighty. So how would you set up a unit? It'd be pretty. So yeah, setting up a unit selector pretty much just the same way you'd set up an option. We'll add in a button. I'll go with the general RPG button this time. That's a bit big though. I do have to say I've had a pretty consistent, and I know this is not a terribly impressive numbers in terms of streaming generally, but I have had a pretty consistent like 8 to 10 viewers this whole time, which means it seems like it's mostly the same people have stuck around. So yeah, if you've stuck around since the start, like thank you so much. I really hope you're finding this helpful. Horizontal box. Let's make it look nice and not too insane. I don't have any portraits set up, so we won't add a portrait just yet, but we want to add in their name, or unit name. Make sure it's a variable. All right, and so we have a button set up and a text for their name. And just like the option template, all we got to do is go in here, get unit name widget, drop that text widget in, and get unit button widget and drop the button in. Now, and just for good measure to show things are working, hovered unit. We'll add in this a quick text to just show what unit we're hovering over. Does anyone, out of curiosity, any of you guys have any questions about anything you'd like want to do or want to see or want to know if you'd be able to do? All right, unit selected and unit hovered, and this just determines, all right, when do we click on a unit that's one of the unit that appeared here, and when do we just hover over it. Make sure we use our example that we just created, this unit selector super example. So now oh wait, one more thing. So make it so when we've hovered a unit, set text, hover unit, get data, get unit. I believe it's would be asset, yeah. Name. So now it should change that to whatever the hovered name is. Thank you, Roberto. Yeah. Agree. Oh. But yeah, there you go. That's all I had to do, and now I have an option for each one of the members currently in my party. So yeah, me too. It might be a while before I can get to the combat system, but I'm pretty excited to work on it. I'm excited to this is one of the things that drove the inspiration behind the way I'm structuring this. Is I have removed them right now for privacy and like non-disclosure reasons and whatever. But actually, normally I have about 3 other projects of my own just sitting right here in the content browser alongside this that I am working on developing alongside the framework, because like I mentioned earlier, that helps me with developing the framework. itself, and it's making me one. It lets me bounce back and forth between a lot of projects. I'm able to make a lot of them faster, and it helps me a lot with just getting a lot of stuff done and being like, oh wow, like this would be a cool idea, or oh, I can include this, and stuff like that. So it's I don't know. It's honestly it's a little bit of a shame that game development is obviously like not niche, but it's not like the most profitable thing to make money off of just selling assets and stuff, because I'm tempted to spend way too much time doing game development because I love it so much, but I have to do other freelance stuff to earn money. But yeah, it's great. I love it. I love this job. Anyway, new thing to show you. Controller input, because I've talked a lot about that, but I haven't really explained it. So the way controller input works, I talked a little bit about how when you open the main things controllers will control is menus, but whenever you they can control any user widget, but yeah, whenever you you set input, you'll do set interface mode, and you'll put in a focus menu, and then, like I said before, that focus menu will send messages or message functions to whatever the menu is. So all I need to do in order to get that working is set up the functions for it. So the main menu template, hang on, I'll show you right here. The menu template. I need to change the name. That's not correct. Wait a second. Oh, I have some bad naming set up. This is not the title menu. This is a generic menu template. Anyway, like I was saying, for any menu templates, you automatically have this widget input interface here, and this will control just the general interface inputs. Basically, just says, all right, when you do this input on a controller, what happens. I've kept some of it. Some of it's general. Like confirm is typically going to be the I mean, there's the confirm button, cancel button, which is usually the it's X on PS4 and or X and O on PS4 and A and B on Xbox, stuff like that. You have navigate, which is for the D-pad navigation. But in this case, when we're in this menu and we want to go back to the can't menu, we just want to hit. I say in this case we'll just hit cancel. So let's say implement function, and when that happens, you just want to close out this menu and reopen the camp one, which is right here. We'll just copy that code over, and instead of can't menu. Wait, do I have the right one? No, I can't menu. It's called the pause menu, and it's for super example. Also close out this menu. So now we should be able to go all the way to this menu and back. Come on. Come on, buddy. Don't crash on me. Don't crash on me. Oh, Unreal Engine. Oh, I saw something. Saw crash on me once this stream, which is really nice. So, all right, tab, units. Okay, and now let's hit back. Boom. Just one key input. Didn't have to press anything. And resume. In fact, now. I guess I'll just quickly show a way of setting up how you'd use a controller for moving around a menu as well. And there's a few different ways to do that. Where's the pause menu? But a common one is you use a controller to scroll through one list of options at a time. So let's say input, navigate, because like I said, this is for D-pad. Let's say switch. Let's get the option list that I was using. Is this one? Yeah. And we'll get the widgets from it. Get option widgets. And I have I have a lot of actually special macros. What freelance work? I do a few different types of freelance work. I'm working on one project that I can't really disclose. I sometimes will do. Actually, I can't really disclose any of the specific stuff I work on, but I've worked some on like with animations for internal company videos and stuff like that. Some promotional stuff. That's mostly what I'll do, or else I have a company project that I'm a part of right now. So yeah, it's not, most of the freelance stuff I do isn't really related to game development, but what's nice is that I even if I don't earn a ridiculous amount through making game assets and stuff, I earn enough to where I don't have to work full time as I don't know, doing lifting boxes in a warehouse somewhere, which I did do. Not that I could do that at right now anyway. But okay, so like I said, I've been trying to include a lot of different useful macros as well, just to save time. It's stuff I would use in any game, and that's, again, the idea is that stuff I would use that I find useful, I give it to you as well to use. So a few different examples are some do once events. Like I have a do once switch, which is this, and it basically says, hey, fire this event once, and fire each one of these only once, and flip back and forth between them. And it's useful primarily for if you're doing a tick but you don't want to repeat it every time. So to say, like, I want to you want to always be checking something, basically, and constantly checking something, but you don't want to always run a function. You only want to run that function once whenever that value changes, if that makes sense. One that I use a lot for ticks especially is do once delay, which I can't access here, but let me see if I can do that somewhere. Do once delay, and this is basically for, if you're running a tick event, and ticks typically happen every frame, but you can set them up so they happen not every frame, every however often. But if you don't want to stick only to that, you can set up a do once delay, which basically it's just, hey, do this once and then don't do it again until this much time has passed. So you run it on a tick. A very easy thing is, if you want something to count up every second, you would add it to an event tick and do once delay, and then every single second it would do this while it's running the rest of the event tick. So it also helps because, as anyone who really knows Unreal will tell you, it's not a good idea to use the event tick if you can help it. Especially in this game where you in the RPG framework, where you need to be getting a lot of data for a lot of different things. Avoid it when you can help it. But anyway, the point is, one of the macros I am adding is, two of them, is something that I found, I'm surprised there's not really an option for, but I found very useful, and that's an array cycler, I call it. So let me see. Cycle array. And essentially what this does is it allows you to take an array and cycle through the index. And what that means is you can add to the index in a certain direction, but it'll never go below 0, and it'll never go above the last index. So if it goes to the last index and you increase it one more, it'll just go back to 0. And if you go to 0 and decrease it one more, it'll go to the max index. So it'll keep whatever the index that you're changing is within this array length. And on top of that, I've added as one that specifically is useful does this for widgets. So let me see if I can do that. Widget, I believe it's called widget cycle widget focus. And what this does is it runs that same thing, but it runs it within a widget array. And what this does is it just changes whatever the what array of this list has keyword focus. So if you wanted to set up controls to go back and forth or scroll through a widget thing, all you need to do is get the array, and then we'll say on navigate up, navigate down. When I click the up on the D-pad or whatever, it'll cycle 1, and it'll cycle -1 on if I go down. And that's just like cycling through the index. The only thing is you need to make sure to set up a actual index variable that it can reference. So option index. So let's pop that out. And oh, but first we got to make sure that the no, yeah, that works. So as soon as we hit this, haven't touched the mouse, I'm just hitting the arrow keys, and I can already go through it. And we want to set up so that when I hit the confirm key, it opens up a menu. So confirm. Because I know controller support was another thing some people were asking for. And I really want it too, because I actually generally prefer the feel of JRPGs on a controller. I just think they're nicer. I prefer most games that aren't like aim-based. So anything that's not like a first-person shooter, I tend to, or a third-person shooter of some kind, I tend to prefer, or an RTS, obviously. I tend to prefer on a controller. I just like the feel of it better. But anyway, let's get back to this. So if we wanted to confirm, we'll say get whatever the current option index is, and we will say, well, it's an option, so I think we just need to say select option. Yeah, select option right there. And it should go. So tab. No, I did the wrong thing there. Alright, so something's up with that. Yeah, that's way off. Huh. Interesting. Well, I will work more on fixing that up. But at least the cycling is working as it's supposed to. What are we at? Oh, we're almost about to hit 2 hours. Trying to think of what else I could show off quickly as far as what I'm working on. Yeah, it's that's probably most of what I have to, assuming no ETA. Unfortunately, no ETA on when 2.0 comes out, because it's one of those things that as the more I'm working on trying to improve it, the more I'm realizing, oh wow, the stuff I did before is actually really inefficient, and I'm having to pull even more stuff out. So most of the stuff that I kind of haven't showed you off that yet, like abilities I've talked about. And actually stats are mostly ready to go, but abilities primarily, and a lot of menus and equipment and stuff, a lot of the code for that is just broken, and I'm needing to rework. So I can't really say. I know almost certainly, actually not certainly, I know for sure it will be released after Unreal Engine, unless Unreal Engine 4.26 gets released a really long time into the future, which I think they're wanting to get it released before the end of the year, but oh man, I would say at the absolute least another month, and probably it'll be sometime into early 2021. I really wish I could get it out before then, but I want to make it the best. So so unfortunately, no, I'm sorry, I don't know for certain, but count on at least a month. I will keep you updated as far as how it's going though. I want to at least make sure I include everything that I included in the original. So turn-based combat, shops, dialogue, the gap system, area transitions, everything that was included in the like affinity relationship system, anything that was included in the original version, I want to make sure is ready to go with this. So let me just think of this. Anything else I can show off? Well, to show an example of what I'm talking about the flexibility, I'll actually go ahead and add something into the content folder. We will call it, I'll not call it anything. Right here, example games, which is currently copying. And okay, I don't know how. Again, when any copyright lawyers will think of this, but let's show right here examples of the games I'm working on. Persona X, what's that all about? Well, let's go and set it up, and I can show you. Persona X hub. So example of like, oh, just how crazy can you get with some of the designs on, or the customization on this. And for right now, again, most of it's aesthetic, like, well, I kind of already spoiled it a little bit, but is visual. But just as an example, I showed off everything that I just did on the game project that I was making for this super example. All I've done is now import this other folder. I haven't changed any code at all. And now it looks like this broken. 1 second. Let me clean up a little bit of code. Just make sure everything is working properly. Hang on. Shut. I can just show you what I'm working on. It's more exciting than keeping it off screen. Shut down subsystem. Camp. This is the camp menu. And then, yeah, create my HUD. I had to make him realize how much I've improved a lot of the stuff. Game mode, persona, universal. Nah, man. Nah, bro. All right. It's not as impressive, I guess, at this point as I would have preferred, or as impressive of a reveal. But main HUD class menu, pause menu, camp menu. There you go. All right, get that 3,000 tabs out of here, and haha. Wait, it's full screen. Here we go. Wow, that's not right. Well, this is not as impressive as I was hoping, I guess. Oh well. But I'll see about it. Here we go. Should clean this. Get option text right there, and button. I think that's it. Poop. Still not showing up. What's that all about? Huh. You ever see those things that just make you go, You're like, why am I humming? Well, I can hear the noises for it, but I ain't seen any animations. Ah, I know why. I'm dumb. That's why. I didn't put in. I updated the structure and didn't re-put in the values. Like a nymphal me. Oh, that's not what I meant to say. That is not what I meant to say. New load config. All right. There we go. That's how it's done. So yeah, look. Stylish nonsense. New game. What? Nothing appearing here because, yeah, it's still kind of broken. Whatever. Angle. Oh, don't crash on me. Here we go. Ah, thanks, Robert. I'm just trying to make sure I can show off the other bit. I mean, the other bit is pretty much the same thing. It just shows an example of the camp menu being changed. So, let's make sure that game timer subsystem's running. My unit even appear? Nah. You ain't showing up anywhere. Well, that's a lot of poo. Oh, okay, I see why. There's my blue boy. You still can't move. And no menu. It's because I gotta add those back in. Huh. Confidantes. Well, there. You can't see me throwing up my hands, I guess, with this avatar, but that's okay. But yeah, there's where I'm at with Super RPG Framework 2. Kind of, yeah, I hope you got an idea if that's how flexible it is aiming to be. Even if it's mostly just the menus you've seen it in, but yeah. So, yeah, that's my plan is to, as I think right now, as I continue working on it, I'll probably do some more streams. I may do one tomorrow. I don't know yet. This actually was pretty fun. I enjoy doing this. So yeah, well look, I gotta be careful. I'm sure nothing copyright would happen, but you can never be too careful. So yeah, tomorrow possibly. If not, then in the next few days, I'll maybe do another stream again. That one will mostly just be I'll be working on the game, doing or working on not the game, the framework, whatever. And you want to shut up and be like, hey, I want to see this. I'll be like, all right, maybe. So that'll be more casual. But yeah, I think that's a good place to kind of wrap this all up. Thanks all of you who joined and stuck around. I really appreciate it. I honestly was thinking I wouldn't. I was prepared for like no viewers most of the time. So the fact that it seems about an average of like 8 people stuck around, 6 to 8 people, whatever. It's awesome. That's great. So thank you so much. I hope you're looking forward to the release, because I certainly am. And I will talk to you all later. See you guys. Let's make sure I do this properly. Ending.